Private label beauty used to just mean, well, packaging. Now, if you're building a clean beauty brand, choosing a manufacturing partner it's arguably the most critical and highest risk decision you can make.
Oh, absolutely. It's not about finding someone who can fill jars anymore. Not at all.
Right.
It's this high-stakes blend of speed to market, intense regulatory diligence, and just radical transparency. And it's all dictated by a consumer base that is more informed than ever.
And if you pick the wrong collaborator,
Your brand reputation is immediately vulnerable. It's that simple.
exactly. So today we're diving into a specialized guide that was written for brand strategists and, brand owners, giving you a really comprehensive buyer-first framework. Our goal here is to help you minimize that risk, shorten your time to market, and most importantly, make sure those clean label promises are actually met without fail.
And our mission today is really to equip you with the essential questions, the vetting criteria you need. We're looking for a mature collaborator, one who will protect your brand's reputation and, so critically, your intellectual property.
All while delivering that product integrity from the very beginning.
From ingredient sourcing all the way through.
Okay, so we've broken this down into 6 big areas we need to cover. There's the regulatory backbone,
The foundation.
deep transparency and traceability, factory QA and how you formulate, then logistics and MOQs,
The practical stuff.
right, the practical stuff, and sustainable packaging, and of course pricing, the total cost of ownership. But let's start with the big challenge. Why is clean beauty so much more complex than, say, traditional manufacturing?
Well, it really boils down to 2 factors.
Yeah.
You've got ingredient volatility, and then you have the constantly moving goalposts of regulation.
Okay.
Traditional beauty is all about consistent performance, guaranteed stability. Clean beauty demands that performance plus verifiable transparency, and it often uses more volatile, natural, or organic ingredients.
So when the rules change, which they always do,
Which they do constantly, exactly. When rules around restricted substances or sourcing ethics change, your manufacturer has to be ready to pivot instantly across multiple international markets. Maria Chen, who's the Chief Regulatory Officer at Ingredientsage, she noted, private label needs a living regulatory backbone. It's about readiness, not reaction.
that sets the stage perfectly for our first section then, the regulatory backbone. Because like you said, rules change constantly based on new safety data, new ingredient restrictions.
Evolving sustainability expectations.
So compliance isn't a static checkbox, it's a living process.
It has to be. A top-tier partner must offer genuine, ongoing regulatory intelligence. They can't just meet current standards. They need to be forecasting future ones. This includes, transparent change control processes and providing essential regulatory mapping by market.
So if I want to sell in Europe and the US, they need to know the difference.
They need to know every specific restriction, what claims are permissible, and how to localize those labels instantly without blowing up your launch schedule.
That sounds like a huge task, just for the labels. What kind of documentation proves a manufacturer can actually handle that level of complexity?
You need absolute clarity, especially around fragrance disclosures, potential allergens, and how they handle their preservative systems.
Those are the big consumer flashpoints.
Those are the flashpoints, exactly. If your fragrance contains any of the EU's, say, 26 mandatory disclosed allergens, your partner must have the system in place to track and label them precisely for every single market where that rule applies.
And then beyond their own internal standards, brands really lean on third-party certifications for consumer trust, right?
Oh, absolutely. Certifications are the independent, verifiable proof that retailers and consumers rely on.
Okay.
We're talking about the common ones, like Leaping Bunny or PETA approved for cruelty-free.
Vegan Society.
The Vegan Society trademark. And for organic lines, you need verifiable docs for Cosmos Organic or USDA Organic.
Mm-hmm.
If a partner has these, it means their entire facility and their supply chain has been audited against really stringent criteria. That's a massive risk mitigation step for you.
So what's the practical vetting step here? Do I just ask to see their certificates?
It's more than that. You need to ask for copies of their current audit reports, check the certificate validity periods, and this is crucial, ask about their defined process for maintaining those standards. Dr. Elena Rossi said it best. Certification is not a one-and-done event.
Meaning if you tweak a formula.
Right. If you swap one supplier for another or slightly tweak a formula, you have to know how fast that manufacturer can update their internal documentation and ensure the certification stays valid. You cannot risk any consumer confusion.
And this is where the contract becomes your shield. The guide we're looking at really stressed the essential change control clause. Why is that non-negotiable?
Because without it, any regulatory change becomes your financial burden and your time to market risk. If a major market bans an ingredient you use 6 months after launch, a robust change control clause defines who pays for the reformulation, who manages the new stability testing,
And the timeline.
and the guaranteed timeline for getting that compliant product back on the shelf. It's all about proactive readiness.
Yeah.
It minimizes what could be catastrophic financial risk.
That need for verifiable proof, it transitions us perfectly into deep transparency and traceability. If clean beauty has one core value, it's knowing the what, the where, and the how of your ingredients.
It's the ultimate antidote to greenwashing. It really is. Robust traceability means tracking ingredient origins, the batch lineage, any substitutions or changes to raw materials. A serious partner must have a strong supplier qualification program.
Like an approved vendor list.
Exactly. Approved vendor lists and guaranteed lot-level traceability for every single input, all backed by certificates of analysis or COAs.
Okay, let's get granular. If I'm a brand owner vetting 2 potential partners, how do I compare the quality of their traceability systems? What do I ask for?
You request a current bill of materials, a BOM, for, let's say, a hypothetical standard product. And don't just look for ingredient names and percentages. Look for the granularity.
What does that mean? What am I looking for?
Does the BOM list the supplier's name, the specific lot number they used, the country of origin, and a corresponding COA for that exact lot? If a partner hands you a generic BOM, that's a red flag. They're managing risk poorly. A truly robust system lets you trace that specific lot of shea butter right back to its harvest date.
Wow. And that level of detail is absolutely key for backing up all your external claims, isn't it?
100%.
Okay.
Every single plain, vegan, cruelty-free, non-GMO, you name it. It all has to be housed in a verifiable claim dossier that's maintained by your partner. And beyond that, clear disclosure of fragrance components, allergens, and especially the sourcing of palm-derived ingredients is now non-negotiable.
Consumers are demanding that.
They are. Your partners need to provide allergen matrices and track the origin of any palm-derived materials to satisfy those ethical sourcing demands.
I found the digital edge that the source material mentioned fascinating, linking all that supply chain data directly to the consumer with a QR code. But let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Go for it.
Doesn't exposing your entire supply chain, supplier names, origins, lot numbers, doesn't that just invite your competitors to poach your specialty ingredient vendors?
That is a sharp question, and it is a calculated risk, there's no doubt. But in the clean beauty space, the brand loyalty you gain from that radical transparency often outweighs the supply chain risk. The best approach is to use a QR code or NFC-enabled packaging that links to a curated data set.
Ah, so not everything.
Not proprietary cost info, no.
Right.
But verifiable cradle-to-grave data. It transforms transparency into this powerful trust signal that is, frankly, rapidly becoming a prerequisite for major retailers.
Okay, so now let's step inside the factor itself. Quality assurance, standards, and formulation strategy. We can start with the foundational standards, ISO 22716 for cosmetics GMP and ISO 9001. But the guide says they're just a baseline. What really differentiates a partner?
The real difference is how they integrate those standards into their operational risk management. You need detailed batch records that meticulously capture every material lot, every piece of equipment used, every single testing result.
And for natural lines, stability must be a huge issue.
Crucially, especially for natural and organic lines, you need rigorous stability testing. We're talking long-term and accelerated studies to prove those more volatile ingredients maintain their efficacy and shelf life without, degrading or separating.
The guide also highlighted the CAPIO system as absolutely critical. Why is a formal corrective and preventive action system so important?
Well, just think about the cost of failure. If one batch fails a microbial test, a CAPIO system isn't just about throwing that batch out. It requires a formal root cause analysis.
Finding out why it failed.
Exactly. Was it poor air filtration? Operator error? A flaw in the cleaning protocol? Without a formal Campana program, you'll just keep making the same expensive mistakes. That leads to preventable recalls and, devastating brand damage. If a partner can't show you their CAPIO process, they're choosing speed over quality, period.
Okay, let's move to how you actually develop the product. We know the 3 main lanes: in-house R&D, library lines, and co-development. What are the practical trade-offs for a brand?
You're essentially balancing speed, control, and cost. In-house R&D gives you maximum control and IP protection, but it is slow and it requires a ton of upfront capital.
The opposite end would be library lines.
Right. Library lines are fast, you can launch a product in weeks, but you sacrifice any unique claims and market differentiation. Then you have co-development, which is really the strategy for growth. You leverage the partner's scale and regulatory expertise while you guide the formulation for your own proprietary claims.
So if we choose co-development, what are some of the modern formulation demands that partners really have to support now?
They need demonstrated expertise in some highly specialized areas. For one, they have to be able to support formulations for microbiome-friendly goals,
Which means?
which means they need the validation and testing capacity to prove their preservative systems don't harm beneficial skin flora. They also need to be fluent in current trends like waterless formulations, which cut down on packaging and reliance on traditional preservatives.
And since you're leveraging their expertise in co-development, protecting your intellectual property is paramount.
Yeah.
What specific contractual language does a brand absolutely need to demand for IP ownership?
You need a clear written agreement that defines absolute ownership. No ambiguity. Who owns the final formulation? Who owns the process know-how? And this is one that's often overlooked. Who owns the manufacturing improvements that the partner develops while working on your product?
So even little tweaks they figure out.
Yes. The contract must state unequivocally that any new formulations or proprietary process improvements created for your brand are 100% your brand's IP. Any ambiguity here is a fundamental threat to your future business valuation.
Okay, let's turn to the practical numbers. Logistics, sustainability, and the bottom line, starting with MOQs, minimum order quantities, and lead times.
Right, so MOQs are often negotiable. They can range from a few hundred units for a small pilot run up to several thousand for a standard stock formula. But the real planning constraint is lead time. That often spans anywhere from 6 to 14 weeks.
That's a big window.
It is, and the huge variable in clean beauty is sourcing. Sourcing certified or non-irradiated or rare natural extracts that can instantly stretch your timeline if the raw materials are subject to seasonal scarcity or, unexpected price volatility.
So let's make it concrete. If I'm a brand owner and I need 5,000 units of a complex mid-market skincare line with custom packaging, what's my realistic timeline?
You're looking at a minimum of 8 to 12 weeks. And that's after both the final formulation and all your custom packaging components are fully approved and delivered to the manufacturer. If you need special tooling for unique packaging, or if a key organic ingredient has an outage, that time will easily creep toward that 14-week mark.
Wow. Given that volatility, how do brands mitigate the risk of disruption, especially with these complex, clean ingredients?
The guide recommends 2 key strategies. First is dual sourcing for your key actives and packaging components where you can, so you aren't reliant on a single vendor. And second, always use a staggered launch plan. Don't commit to huge volumes right away. Test the market. Give your supply chain time to stabilize.
And packaging is so strategic now, it has to support the clean claims, right?
Right.
Especially on sustainability.
Oh, absolutely. The manufacturing partner needs real expertise in materials like PCR, PTT, glass, and emerging bioplastics. They also have to be set up to handle the growing demand for refillable and reusable systems.
So they can't just fill bottles.
No. And if you're making sustainability claims, your partner must be prepared to provide verifiable carbon footprint reporting and life cycle assessments for those materials. That's the only way to legally and ethically back your claims.
Okay, finally, pricing and hidden costs. Total cost of ownership TCO is the only real way to compare bids. What are the most common hidden fees that just sink a brand's margins?
You have to anticipate setup fees. That's for tooling, line testing. Reformulation charges are a huge hidden risk. If your ingredient supplier changes a stabilizer, you might suddenly owe thousands in fees for the manufacturer to revalidate the whole formula.
I can see that happening easily.
It does. Also, watch out for storage fees for raw materials or finished goods, unexpected charges for rapid labeling changes, and the ongoing costs for QC, especially if you require extra stability testing for a highly natural formula. I mean, hidden costs can easily erode your margins by 10% or more if they aren't detailed up front.
Which brings us to that final, crucial vetting phase. What are the major red flags that should tell you to walk away from a potential partnership?
Well, first, vague or incomplete documentation. If they take more than a few days to produce a simple COA for a material, that's a bad sign. An unverified or tiny supplier list signals poor resilience. But I think the biggest operational red flag is frequent, unexplained changes to formulas or packaging without formal notification.
And on the QA side?
The lack of a formal KPI program. It shows they're just managing failure, not actively working to prevent it.
So what are the necessary final steps before you sign?
Request references from brands of a similar size and product complexity. Conduct rigorous site visits or at least virtual tours. and utilize third-party audits. You need proof, real proof, they align with your brand's quality and risk expectations before you sign on that dotted line.
That was a tremendous dive into what is essentially a buyer's scorecard for a very high-stakes market. So to summarize, it seems success in clean beauty hinges on finding a partner with a living regulatory backbone, demonstrable, robust traceability, maybe with tools like QR codes, and absolute contractual clarity on IP ownership.
That's it. The best partners blend fast execution with radical transparency.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture,
Well, the market is just driving more complexities, demanding validated science behind all these ethical claims. We mentioned the rise of microbiome-focused skincare, waterless formulations, all while regulatory scrutiny of any green claim is intensifying across the globe. Consumers are demanding proof, not just promises.
so the future belongs to the brands that can prove how their ingredients came to be and, critically, how their packaging impacts the planet.
And that raises the ultimate question for you, the brand owner, as you finalize this partnership. Since your most informed consumer is effectively acting as an unannounced auditor of your entire supply chain, how can you structure your collaboration so that it's audit-ready not just for the regulators, but for that most critical consumer, the one who can scan a QR code and expect verifiable cradle-to-grave data in real time? That level of systemic readiness, that's the new bar for long-term integrity in the clean beauty space.